Hello, welcome to Yin Yoga. So today's peak pose is going to be the saddle. So some people that can really aggravate the knees. So I recommend that you have the appropriate props in place, a bolster cushion, a sturdy pillow, several blankets, so that if you tend to be really tight in your knee, that lifting will make it a lot more comfortable for you. It'll feel a little bit tight, but it shouldn't feel like something's going to rip. So I recommend having those in place. We'll also do a supported back bend today. So if you don't have a sturdy pillow or something like that for that, remember, you can always take your blocks, you can put them side by side, put a nice blanket over it, and then you've got a nice prop if you need that. So today, you might have noticed, I'm kind of doing things a little bit differently today. I'm playing with a different angle. So feedback on that afterwards is appreciated. I do like to try new things, but we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm sitting up on a folded blanket here because my hips are a little bit tighter today. I'm just going to move the flesh out of the way of the sits bones. I'm just going to rock back and forth here. Good. And then finding a nice posture. So think about the ears, the shoulders, and the hips in alignment. Zip up from the pubic bone to behind the navel. Relax through the shoulders, maybe slightly tuck the chin. And we'll begin to come into our practice. So as you settle in, just notice the body. Do you have anywhere that could benefit from softening just a little bit more? So could that be the hips, the shoulders, the face? Can you find the rhythm of your breath? And as you breathe, can you find some nice rib cage expansion here? And then as we find that rib cage expansion, could we slow that breath down a little bit? So everybody, slow is a little bit different for everybody. So just think about slowly inhaling and expanding. Maybe taking a short pause at the top of that breath and then slowly releasing. And we'll take that again. And one last time, inhale to expand. Short pause. And letting it all go. Fingertips to the side, palms turning up. Inhale, reach, and lengthen, touching palms together. Exhale, hands at heart center, creating an intention for your practice. What would you like to give or receive? Maybe you'd like to dedicate this practice to someone or something. So my theme this week is resilience as I go through a lot of different things here. So you're welcome to try resilience as your intention or something else that's more needed for you. And once you have that set, we'll inhale, take it out, palms turning down, grow taller from crown to tail as you release those arms. Good. Just preparing the spine. Let's take the arms back up. Big inhale. Exhale. Let's get a little side bend towards the left. And I'm not going too deep here in the beginning, but I do want to expand the rib cage as I breathe. And then once you've been here for a breath or two, you can decide, do you stay here? Do you side bend deeper, sits bones grounded? Do you want to open towards that ceiling? Or do you want a nice little C curve roll, forehead in the direction of the knee, but not touching? And then inhale and lengthen. Exhale, come all the way back up. Inhale, exhale, take that to the other side. So gentle in the beginning. Breathe and expand. Your gaze is where your body needs you to be. And then you choose. Do you need a deeper one? Do you want to open? Do you want to see curve roll, forehead in the direction of the knee, but not touching? Inhale and lengthen. Exhale, come all the way back up. Big inhale. Exhale, gentle rotation to the left as your arms come down. Roll those shoulders back. Look a little bit more behind you. Breathe and expand. Inhale, lift. Exhale, center. Inhale, exhale, take that to the other side. Arms come down, or roll those shoulders back, looking a little bit more behind you. And then from here, inhale and lift. Exhale, come back to center. Hands together, coming back down at heart center. Good. So from here, we're going to move right into a child's pose. And we're only going to be here for a couple minutes. And this may be your first child's pose today. And so remember, we're prepping the knees, we're prepping the body for the peak pose of straddle. So if you need a little bit more knee cushion today, my knees certainly do. So I'm going to undo this blanket here so I'm a little bit more cushioned. Good. And then you can choose. You can take your knees together. They can be as wide as your mat. They can be somewhere in between. And I'm just going to come back a little bit here. So here's my full, but I'm not going to come all the way into the full in the beginning. So I'm just going to come down a little bit here. And then as I settle into my pose, then I'll take it back a little bit deeper. So arms can be long in front of you. You can have hands back by the ankles, depending on what works well for you. And just breathe and expand. And coming back to the intention of resilience. That means different things to different people at different times. And that can mean resilience when times are not so great. It can mean something as resilience as coming to your yoga practice every day. So what does that mean to you? Another name for child's pose is humble pose. Active in the child's pose. Breathe and expand. Zip up from pubic bone to behind the navel. Good. So from here, we'll carefully take the hands under the shoulders and carefully come up out of there. Good. So we're going to go right into a supported back bend from here. So I'm going to take this extra blanket that I used for that one out of the way. And I'm going to bring in my bolster cushion here. Good. So if you need the hack of taking 2 blocks side by side long ways and draping a blanket over that, please do so. Good. But I'm just going to place this bolster cushion right up against my backside here. And then remember, different people are going to do different things with the legs based on how your back feels ultimately. So I'm just going to kind of come down here. If you need to support your head with something, for example, looks like I'm going to need that today. I'm going to take a folded blanket, so I'm folding mine lengthways and putting that back here. Good. But you want your shoulders to be off and kind of free here. And we'll be here for 3 minutes. Some people can take their legs long. Some people need to put a bend in them. Some people are happy crisscross applesauce. It really just depends on you and your body. So remember, your body is your best teacher. And breathing and expanding. Coming back to resilience, does that mean resilience as we still navigate through this pandemic, which is still going on, whether some of us want to believe that or not? Is it resilience as you work through, maybe something at your workplace? And so now for those of you that had your knees bent, could you start to lengthen a little bit as you start to sink into this pose now? Maybe you still need to keep a little bit of a bend in the knee. Come back to the breath. We're also still engaged in the front. That allows us to bend in the back. Good. So from here, I took my legs long, so I'm going to bend both knees in. I'm going to carefully roll over to my side and then carefully press myself up out of there. So if you need to take a moment just to kind of get your bearings a little bit, always let yourself have that moment. And I'm just going to slide my bolster out of the way. Since my folded blanket is here, that's kind of opportune. So I'm going to resit on my folded blanket here as we come into a Janu Sirsasana. So one leg's going to be out, one leg's going to be in. So I'm going to start with my left leg long. I'm going to bring my right foot in. And I'm sitting up on my blanket because I'm a little tight. Some of you may not need that, and that's completely fine. Some of you might need a little bit higher than a blanket. So, do you have two blankets here? But find an anterior tilt of the pelvis. So tailbone's going to come back, hip bones are going to come forward. Now I've got flexion in my left foot, so I'm taking that foot towards my face. Big inhale, reach and lengthen. Exhale, I'm going to hinge and fold a little bit here, but again, I'm not going to go to my max capacity. I'm going to stop at about 85, 90-ish%. Now let my body sink in over time. Staying with my breath expansion. And here, also think about your spine as an energy channel. So when head and neck are not aligned with the spine in certain poses, this one being one of them, we kind of close off and block some of that energy from free flowing. So think about head and neck being an extension of the spine. So there's nothing on the chest that your chin needs to touch. There's nothing on that wall or the ceiling in front of you that you need to look at. So my gaze kind of right off the tip of the nose, maybe around the center part of my shin here. And as your body lets you know you're ready, on your exhales, if it's safer for you to come deeper, you can. Also be mindful. This can also be hard on the hamstrings sometimes. So if you need to put a little bit of a prop or something under the knee to keep it slightly bent, that's always an option as well. Breathe and expand. So we're still zipping up, belly button still in. We don't let it go just because we're in a bit of a forward fold. So carefully, we'll come out of there. Good. And if it would feel good to you to just kind of move a little bit, maybe you just want to rotate in one direction and then slightly rotate in the other direction, feel free to take that. We're going to go into pigeon pose now. So we're just going to kind of switch this up a little bit here. So we're going to pigeon on the right side. And to do that, I'm going to move my blanket out of the way. Good. So I'm just going to come back. I'm on all fours. And then when you're ready, your right knee is going to come up behind the right wrist. Good. And I'm at a little bit of an external rotation. So hips, knees, and my toe here are technically going to turn out away from the body a little bit. And then I'm just going to let myself slide back. Now, if you've got a lot of space under here, take that blanket, take a pillow, put under there for safety. And then if this is too much, we are going to be here for 3 minutes. You can come onto your back and come to a figure 4. You'll cross the right ankle over the left knee, and you can stay up or you can come down here. So I'm just going to start right here for now. And think about weight being distributed through center. Maybe ever so slightly, you can adjust the pelvis, taking the right hip back, left hip forward ever so slightly. Remember, pain, numbness, tingling, burning, not normal. So if you feel those, back off until you don't. Coming back to the intention of resilience. Come back to the breath. Expand that rib cage. Good. So from here, carefully take hands under the shoulders. Carefully come up. Good. And I'm just going to slide my knee back here. And I'm going to come forward. I'm going to lay belly down here. Lie belly down here. Good. And I'm just going to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And I'm just going to let all of that energy and everything just kind of clear here a little bit. Good. And then whenever you're ready, good, carefully press yourself up. Good. We'll come back to a seat. We're going to take that Janusarsasana on the other side. So I'm going to bring my blanket back in here. Good. Sitting up on that. This time your right leg, make sure I get my timer here. We're going to take the right leg forward. Good. And then the left foot is going to come in. Good. So again, if you need to sit up higher, go ahead and do that. If you need to have something under your knee here, go ahead and do that as well. Find the anterior tilt of the pelvis. So tailbone comes back, hip bones come forward. We've got flexion in the toes. And then big inhale, reach and lengthen. Exhale, hinge. And we'll come down. Remember, we're about 85, 95%-ish here. Breathe and expand. You'll find the length. Good. Coming back to the intention of resilience. What do you need more resilience for right now? Come back to the breath, breathe and expand. We're still drawing up from pubic bone to behind the navel. Head and neck are an extension of the spine as best as you can. Soften through the face. So carefully come up out of there. Good. And we're going to make our way to pigeon on the other side. Good. So in the way that's best for you, oh, and first, just because my body let me know I needed this, if you need to take a little bit of a rotation in one direction first, and then in the other, always go ahead and take that. Okay, so I'm going to start coming back on all fours. I'm going to move my blanket back out of the way. Good. So same as we did it the other side. If you need to come on figure 4 and do that the same way on the other side, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, I'm going to let my left knee drag up here behind that left wrist. Good. So I'm externally rotating. So from the hip and the knee are going to go out a little bit here. That allows the calf muscle to come out a little bit. Good. And you're just going to come a little bit to your limit here. Fill in any space under the left hip if you need to do that. And we'll try this one for 3 minutes. Good. So I'm going to start more upright on this side. This is my tighter side. And relaxing through the shoulders, the face. Remember, weight distribution is through the center. And once again, just a slight little adjustment, maybe just a little bit, left hip coming back, a little bit, right hip coming forward. It's a very, very small movement, not extreme. Remember, pain, numbness, tingling, burning, not normal. So if we feel those, we want to back off. Getting back to the intention of resilience. Come back to the breath. So carefully, hands under the shoulders, we'll carefully come out of there. Good. I'm just going to kind of swing everything around. We're going to come back belly down again, just like we did after the other side. Good. So once here, just find that little crocodile, just wiggle, 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 and everything release. And then from here, when you're ready, carefully press yourself up. Good. So we're going to do one more pose here before we come into the peak pose of saddle. So I'm going to bring my blanket back in once more. And I'm going to be a little bit sideways here because my heels are going to want a little bit more cushion. So we're going to come into straddle pose. And we won't be here as long. Let's move this out of the way here. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take the legs out to the side. Good. And I'm going to come to an anterior tilt of the pelvis again. And so again, think about we're not coming out at the widest. So for example, here's my widest. I'm going to come in a little bit from there so my body has space to move. And we're only going to do this one for a couple minutes. Good. And then whenever you're ready, we've got flexion in the feet. If you need support under the knees, we have that. Big inhale, reach and lengthen. Exhale, hinge and fold, maybe about halfway. Then take your hands down. Your body will settle in over time. And you can always put in a bolster or some kind of prop under here if you need that support as well. You'll notice your legs when you folded in. Did they turn inward? And if they did, can you take toes, knees, and hips back towards your ceiling? Breathe and expand. Once again, head and neck are an extension of the spine. The spine is long. When your body's ready, it'll let you know when it's ready to sink in a little bit deeper on exhales. Come back to intention, reconnect with your breath. Okay. Carefully, we'll walk up out of there. Good. And once more, I'm just going to take my peace fingers behind my knees for a moment, bringing everything in. And then for a moment, if you need to kind of turn in one direction and then the other. So I don't know about you, I felt a pretty big energetic shift there after that one. That's all good. So now we're going to come into the half straddle pose. So I'm going to bring my bolster cushion back in here. Good. And so those of you that have knee issues, you're going to want to sit up higher. I'm going to sit on my folded blanket here a little bit. We're going to start by taking the right foot back first. So in an effort not to get my foot tangled up in my blanket, I've got my blanket kind of moved over a little bit here. Some of us need to sit really, really high to make this work. And that's okay too, if that's what you need. And we'll take the left leg long, and I'm just going to kind of roll over to my left, taking my right foot back. Good. And then from here, good. So again, I don't have a perfect alignment here. A lot of people will not. We do what we can. And good. And then from here, whenever you're ready, you can be here. So I'm going to lie back a little bit here. I've got this bolster back here for that purpose. But while you're here, you know, give yourself a little bit of massage. It really does help. And you can just kind of rub. And you can rub all the way down the leg. You can rub the tops of the foot. So this is actually a good pose to teach about resilience, about not giving up. For a lot of people are right here in this spot for years. It takes years for some people to be able to lie back. It can take years for people to be able to do full saddle where both knees are back. Probably not me, at least not lying back, given my age and my own injuries. But, you know, it just takes time. So resilience through patience. So about at the halfway point here, and I feel a little bit more open here. I'm going to start to lie back. So remember, if this is your goal, start small like this, start a little bit, see how you feel. And we want this knee to stay grounded. So if you lie back and it starts to pop up a little bit, that's really, really risky. We don't want that. So be mindful of that. So talking about years of getting somewhere, it's taken me years to get to this point or get back to this point after a back injury. That's why I'm always supported when I come back here. The front body is still engaged, whether you're sitting up, lying back, or halfway, zipping up from pubic bone to behind the navel. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to nod my chin. I've got my hands. I'm going to have them help me kind of come up here. The knee is vulnerable, so we want to be mindful as to how we come out. And I'm going to roll over onto my left side, carefully undoing. And then once everything is kind of back to its normal position, I'm just going to kind of rub a little bit here. So notice the differences on one side and the other. And then from here, we'll take that into the other side. So I'm just going to make a small adjustment with my blanket so my foot doesn't get tangled in. And then we'll take that to the other side. So now my right leg is going to be the one that comes long. Good. I'm just going to roll over a little bit onto my right side as I take my left foot back here. And you might notice that your alignment is a little bit different on one side to the other. Mine certainly is. And today, I'm not in the normal alignment. I tend to be on this side. This is a really tight side today. So I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to rub it here in a moment. And when you are where you need to be, remember, higher up if you need to do that. No worries. We've talked about resilience, maybe in poses, resilience in our just coming to a practice, maybe the workplace. I mentioned resilience through a pandemic. And what about resilience through taking care of an aging parent? Or maybe some of us have a sick child and we need the resilience skills to help us through those. Or maybe some of us are battling with chronic illness and we need resilience to get through that. It means different things to different people. As we approach about the halfway point here, and like I said, when we started this pose, this side is really tight. I'm going to honor that. I'm not going to lie all the way back here. I'm just going to come back a little bit. So man, your body's your best teacher. It lets you know what you can and can't do. So do you choose to honor that or do you choose to ignore it? I hope you choose to honor that. You'll get farther that way. And avoiding an injury. Good. So breathe and expand. Belly button is still in. We're still drawing up from the pubic bone to behind the navel. Reconnect with your breath. Good. So again, I'm just going to come up a little bit here. Good. I'm going to roll over to my right side as I carefully undo. You never want to snap out of these riskier poses. And then I'm just going to rub. And then compare your sides. What does one side feel like compared to the other? Now, even though I said my left side was my tighter side and I didn't go all the way back, it actually now feels better than my right side where I could go all the way back there. So, you know, body's a funny thing. What you think it will feel or have an impact isn't always the case. So from here, we're going to prepare to come onto our backs now into supine. I'm just going to clear this space here a little bit. And I know that I want my bolster as part of my Shavasana, so I'm going to have it relatively close. And I know that I'm going to want a head pillow with one of my blankets, so I'm going to take that back and have that one relatively close within reach. Good. So carefully make your way onto your back in the way that's best for you. Good. And I'm going to keep my knees bent here for a moment, and I'm just going to kind of settle in, rolling shoulders back, and I'm just going to get a little windshield wiper here, just giving my low back a little bit of a massage. Good. And then we'll come into a little bit of a stretch sequence here as we go into our final twisty rotation. So I'm going to start on the right side. So we should be pretty open, but I'll give you this little trick. And it doesn't seem like much, but it really is. So anytime we're doing something like this, you're like, oh, it's too tight, it's too tight. Take it in steps. Take your hand behind your thigh, just kind of pull it in, and then take it long. And then pull it in a little bit, and then take it long. And then you can pull it in, and then see if that helps you a little bit better here. So I'm just letting my hands go up as high as they can go. And I'm going to point and flex my foot here too. And maybe just rotate in one direction and then the other. Good. So from here, I'm just going to let go of my leg just for a moment. Good. So you can take your right hand anywhere on the outside of this leg. Some of you can reach up and grab yogi toe or yogi foot. That's fine too. And then we're going to take that leg out to the side. So both hips are going to be grounded here. Both shoulders are grounded here. I keep a bend in my left knee, but if your low back is okay with it, you can certainly lengthen that left leg. And then from here, when you're ready, we'll bring that back up. Good. I'm going to release that foot. Good. Just so that I have room to twist here. I still have a lot of stuff over here. Good. We're going to take this into a twist. So first, plant your feet, lift your hips, shift your hips over to your right, cross the right leg over your left leg. Arms can come out to the side, and then carefully, let's kind of roll over to the side here. Good. Kind of breathe and expand. If at any time something's happening in one of your knees, this is too deep of a twist, it feels awkward, unwrap your legs and you can just keep them stacked here. You can even take your head and your gaze to the other side. That will give you full spinal twist. Good. So head will come back to center. If you need to undo your legs first, you can. Otherwise, you're going to take everything back to center. Carefully undo, press through the feet, take the hips back, center, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle a little bit here. Let everything reset. And then we're going to take that onto the other side. So from here, getting that stretchy first. If you need to do that, pulling in a little bit, that dynamic movement first, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, come into your hamstring stretch here. And you can point and flex through that foot when you're ready. Maybe rolling an ankle in one direction and then the other. Good. And then from here, when you're ready, we'll just release off of that for a moment. So take your left hand anywhere on the outside of that left leg. You can take yogi toe, yogi foot if you can reach. And then we'll take that left leg out to the left. Both hips, both shoulders stay grounded. Good, and then when you're ready, we'll bring that back in. We'll carefully release. That foot's gonna come to the ground. Good, both feet on the ground. Pick up the hips, shift your hips over to the left. Left leg's gonna cross over the right. And then we'll come into our final twist here. You can take the head to the left if you'd like. Breathe and expand that rib cage. And coming back to the intention of resilience. One thing that just popped into my head is resilience of getting through the next news cycle. Sometimes that can be overstimulating in a bad way. So how do we build resilience to give ourselves a break and disconnect from that when we know that we should? Reconnect with the breath, breathe and expand. Could you still soften somewhere? Yeah. And then from here, undo the legs if you need to. Head will come back to center. We'll carefully take everything else back to center. We'll undo the legs, plant your feet, take the hips back to center, and give yourself a nice little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle here. Letting everything reset in the low body. And then from here, when you're ready, maybe taking knees into your chest, giving yourself one last big hug. And then we'll set up for our Shavasana from here. So I'm going to bring in my bolster. You can bring in any props that you like. If you don't like any props, you don't have to bring them in either. And you can be on your back, on your side, on your belly, maybe bent knees or long legs, however it is that you would like to do that. And then once you find where you're going to go, could you find maybe about 10% more comfort. And I'll leave you here for a few moments, dropping into the heart space, coming back to the intention of resilience. Begin to take some deep breaths here. Choose stillness or gently take head and neck from side to side. Choose stillness or invite movement of the fingers and the toes. Choose stillness or maybe bringing knees into the chest, choosing to keep the upper body lowered or maybe lifted into a full body hug. And choosing stillness or moving any props out of the way you may have used during your Shavasana time today. Taking legs long in front of you, arms long behind you, and reach and lengthen from the edge of the fingertips, the edge of the toes. Full body stretch, point and flex to those feet. Bend and stretch to the hands, twirling wrists and ankles in one direction, and then in the other. And then from here, whenever you're ready, carefully bending in both knees, and you choose rolling over onto your right or left side, the side that works best for you in this moment. Taking as long as you need here, but when you're ready, you can carefully come back up to a seated position. Maybe the same one we started with, maybe a different one. And then from here, finding that nice tall seat again, ears, shoulders, and hips. Noticing how you feel now versus when we started. Fingertips to the side, palms turning up. Inhale, reach, 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 and lengthen. Touching palms together. Exhale, hands in the heart center. Reconnecting with that intention, resilience, or your own. One more time. We'll take our thumbs to our forehead for good and true thoughts. To our lips for good and kind words. And to our hearts for open and loving hearts. Knowing no effort on this mat is ever wasted. No gain is ever reversed. May you be safe. May you stay well. May you have a wonderful day, evening, week, month ahead. Namaste.